Zenless 2.3 is right around the corner, and it's time to continue to provide you guys some early glimpse at all of the new characters coming into this upcoming patch. We recently just dropped on a Nato video, our new A-rank Rupture unit that's coming into this patch, and a lot of you guys seem to be very excited with this character. And so I think it's also time to talk about our first S-rank coming within this patch, Lucia. Lucia is going to be the main support that a lot of Rupture units are going to be using because she provides some insane niche buffs for this class that makes them so much stronger than what they already are. So within this video, we're going to be breaking down Lucia's kit and providing you guys my first impressions on it. We're going to be talking about her overall builds and her team synergies you want to discuss, and if you guys should be pulling for this character, if you are or maybe somewhat hesitant on investing into her and the Rupture meta. And so without further ado, let's get started talking about Lucia's kit. Lucia is an S-rank ether support that specializes in providing insane buffs for Rupture units when she enters her dream state. In order for Lucia to enter this state, she needs to accumulate dream points over time, which is done by a multitude of ways. Lucia accumulates 20 dream points when she dodge counters quick assist and uses her special attack, 40 points when she performs her 5th basic and assist follow-up, 60 points when she performs her EX special attack and enters the battlefield, and 100 points when she performs her ultimate. Once enough points are accumulated, Lucia enters the dream state, granting her access to Women Harmony, a quick assist, and it even activates Ether Veil Wellspring. Women Harmony are basically tags that are applied to her normal skills like basic attacks, special attacks, EX special, and even aftershocks in order for her to utilize the buffs that she grants in the dream state. When using Wim, 25 dream points are consumed to upgrade them into Harmony, which then applies her buff, Dreamer's Nursery Rhyme. This buff increases damage dealt for all squad members by 20% for 12 seconds. We then have her Ether Veil Wellspring, which increases her entire squad's max HP by 5% for 40 seconds. This buff so far is actually pretty good because it complements the overall Rupture playstyle for both of our new upcoming units, Minato and Yidhari, extremely well. Both of these characters specialize in draining their HP in order for them to increase their DPS, so to have a support that's able to not only increase your damage but your max HP just makes her a perfect fit for the game plan they're trying to enforce. We then have our buff, Dartbreaker, which is applied when triggering her EX special attack, increasing sheer force by 12. For every 20 points of Lucia's initial max HP, she grants an additional 7.2 sheer force up to a maximum of 876 for 20 seconds. If her additional ability is activated, this buff then applies an additional 30% crit damage when she has a Rupture or stun unit on her team. This is a part of the main reason why Lucia is such an amazing support for the Rupture class, because the sheer force and crit damage buffs she provides drastically increases the DPS of all Rupture units within the game. You then stack that on top of the damage dealt and the HP buffs that we mentioned before, and you have a complete support that's designed to elevate this niche but overall growing and flourishing class. I actually like this quite a bit, as I think Zenless has provided enough general supports in the game for now, and I think it's about time each class gains a specialist that are designed to provide buffs that are extremely strong but again niche. And this in return could limit team flexibility just a little bit for those units, but it does open up longevity for the strength of the units a part of that niche, which I think in the grand scheme promotes a healthy development for those units overall. I mean, just look at how a unit like Lighter has impacted the performance of Fire and Ice units overall. Because of his inclusion, a lot of those characters have received drastic improvements in their performances and now have extended shelf life because of it. I believe Lucia's buffs will be doing the same thing for Rupture, making her overall such a valuable unit to pick up if you plan to invest into them. To take it back to her EX special for a bit, this move also is considered a Harmony, which is good to know because when any Harmony deals damage, Lucia increases the final attack damage by an additional 67% of her max HP. This is a pretty interesting buff because what this tells me is that not only is Lucia designed to be an amazing support for Rupture, she's also been built to be a decent DPS contributor as well. You can tell because remember, all of her general skills in the dream state are Whim, and they get converted into Harmony whenever she consumes 25 dream points. So not only is her EX special getting this damage buff, but most of her kit is as well. You then look at the multipliers on a lot of her skills in her kit, and you realize that the damage that she deals is a lot higher than most supports. I love this idea a lot as it makes her so much more fun and a much more active support, which seems to be the design philosophy that they're going for a lot of our recent supports ever since they introduced Yuzaha. This is a nice change of pace if so, and it definitely has me excited to see what they do with supports in the near future. Finally, we have her ultimate, which summons a huge ethereal for Lucia to ride on and wreak havoc amongst her enemies. This skill deals ether damage in a large area around her while leaving behind a starlight convergence that regenerates HP equal to 1.5 of Lucia's max HP per second. If Lucia is in dream state and the ether veil is active, her ultimate extends ether veil by 32 seconds. If she's not in dream state, Lucia will gain 100 dream points when using her ultimate, and if she's in dream state, she'll gain 100 dream points and re-enter dream state the next time she exits it when she uses her ultimate. I know this sounds like a lot, but basically the whole idea with her ultimate is to do a decent amount of damage as a support and help her keep her buffs active depending on if she's in or out of the dream state. All in all, when it comes to Lucia, she's a pretty straightforward unit just like all of our other supports. When playing her, you want her to enter dream state as soon as possible and keep it as active as long as you can. I found the easy way to enter dream state is by performing her full basic attack combo at the beginning of encounters to build the dream points and activate her ether veil. But if you have energy available for her EX special, performing that should instantly cast veil since she starts encounters with 60 dream points to start anyway. Once the veil is active, this should then trigger a quick assist to switch into your DPS, allowing Lucia to perform aftershocks off field while you perform rotations with the other units on her team. By this point, all of her buffs should also be applied, increasing her team's damage dealt, max HP, sheer force, and crit damage. Her rotations are that simple. Then from here, all you need to do is keep her buffs active. Now, of course, you can use the same rotations we've used before to reapply her buffs, but if you remember, she also has a multitude of other ways to build dream points that we mentioned in the beginning of the video, so utilize whatever you can in the heat of battle. Once it's time for the stun window, I typically initiate with Lucia's EX or my stun units to save resources for my DPS as well as to make sure her buffs are reapplied. I then use her ultimate during stun when performing chain cancels to maximize damage, but if you don't want to do that, you can of course just use automatic chain attacks and have Lucia be the one that ends the chain, and then you use her ultimate since she has a quick assist tied to it. This allows you to easily lead back into your DPS as well as build the points required to enter dream state and activate ether veil again. So as you can see, everything about Lucia and her rotations are intertwined with one another, which allows her to seamlessly play as a very active support on her team. This is what I love about this unit and what makes her really strong overall, to the point that I believe most players should invest into her if you get the chance. This is because Rupture is about to play a major part in the future of Zenless. It is going to be what a lot of the upcoming content is going to be focusing on. So to some degree, everybody will need to invest into Rupture at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lucia ends up being the #1 option for almost every Rupture unit that's coming into the game. So definitely keep this in mind for the future. But enough of talking about Lucia's kit. I think you guys get the picture of how strong this character is. I think now it's time to talk about how to build this unit. When it comes to focusing on builds for Lucia, it's actually pretty straightforward. You can either go for the 4-piece option, Moonlight Lullaby, or you can go for Swing Jazz. Both Moonlight Lullaby and Swing Jazz offers plus 20 to energy regen on a 2-piece, but for Moonlight Lullaby on a 4-piece, damage dealt by squad members is increased by 18% when the equipper uses the EX special attack or ultimate. This is something that's going to be really easy to do, as Lucia is going to be constantly performing her EX specials and ultimates in every rotation, making it really easy to keep this buff up. For Swing Jazz's 4-piece, you also have all squad members damage increases by 15% when a chain attack or ultimate is launched. Again, this is going to be really easy for Lucia to keep this buff up, but I would say the main set you should go for is Moonlight, because you'll be able to keep this buff up a lot more often and a lot longer than Swing Jazz, because of the requirements are just a bit easier in Moonlight. I would just only go for Swing Jazz if you don't have any Moonlight pieces available, but definitely focus on getting Moonlight as your main 4-piece. For your 2-piece options, you can go for Swing Jazz or Moonlight depending on which 4-piece that you use as your main, because both of these again give you 20% ER. And then for another option, you have Young Kaitails for the 10% HP that it provides in order to max out her buff, which requires her to have 24k HP. You don't need to max out this buff, but you want to get to as close as you can depending on if you have her injured or not. Now for your slots, you would have HP on both slot 4 and 5, again to reach that 24k HP threshold in order to maximize as much of Lucia's buff as you can. And then on slot 6, you want to have ER in order to help her provide energy for her team. For her W engine options, you have Dreamlight Hearthy. This is her signature engine that ends up being really good for her due to it providing the 30% HP on the main stat, as well as it providing a 25% damage increase and 50% max HP increase for all of her squad members. This directly improves her supportive capabilities that she already specializes in, while making it a lot easier to max out her sheer force buff. This engine even grants her additional energy, which she'll end up needing in order to constantly use her EX specials and stuff while she's on the field. If you don't want to pull for her engine though, you can also go for Unfeathered Game Ball. This is a decent option as it provides her 50% ER and a 20% crit rate buff for her team against ether enemies. It's overall limiting due to it only being useful against enemies that are weak to ether, but it is a good enough option that it's worth using over a lot of other support engines. And then we have Kabuna Cannon. This is the general engine that we always use for all of our supports, as it provides a 50% ER and an increase to the squad's attack up to 60%. It provides very generic buffs and overall can be useful when equipped on any support. And then lastly, we have Weeping Cradle. This is the last engine I will personally use, as it provides a 24% pin ratio and an increase to ER by 0.6% when off field. This engine also offers damage increases for Lucia specifically, but in the grand scheme, this isn't too important, as you want an engine that focuses on providing support for your overall team. Now you guys are probably wondering, well, what if I run an HP focused engine just for the stat overall? Is that good to run? In my opinion, I don't think it's that important, as it doesn't really matter if you max out the HP buff that Lucia's provide for the sheer force. I think it's more overall important that you provide as much buffs as you can within and without her kit and throughout her build. So going for one of the 4 engines I listed above is much more valuable. Another her builds though, she is a pretty straight unit to build up as most supports, and so now it's time to talk about her teams, which is just as easy there. When trying to form teams for Lucia, you need to have at least a Rupture or a stun unit on the team, but I will say overall your main focus is to have a Rupture unit a part of her squad, as all of her buffs are dedicated to supporting Rupture units. This means that using Lucia for any other class outside of the Rupture, in my opinion, is a waste of time. It can work and you can use her, but if you're already somebody that has units like Astra, Yuzaha, and even some of our A-rank supports, you're better off using them over Lucia because the buffs that she provides, again, are more so focused on the Rupture class due to her being a much more niche support. But if you do have any Rupture units, some of the best teams you can go for example, is Lucia, Yizhuan, and Jafufu. The good thing about this shell is that Yizhuan can be substituted for Yidhari and Minato, and it works extremely well. And with Fufu, you can substitute her with Pan or Pokora, and again, it works extremely well. This is mostly all you have as an option for Lucia because everything about her is Rupture focused, and we only have but so many units that are designed to work with the Rupture class. You can also include other support units like Trigger to sub out for Jafufu, as well as having any Aftershock support off screen always feels good with the Rupture class since they are mostly heavy on field units. You can even run a full free to play team with Lucia with like Minato and Pan or Minato and Pokora. This should run decently well as Lucia is going to be one of the main drivers in supporting Minato, and it's going to allow him to excel in most of the content he performs in. But overall, that's pretty it when it comes to the teams for Lucia. All of these teams are really good and perform really well currently in the in-game content, especially since a lot of the in-game content that we had to test against is focused on providing support for Rupture. Well, we will have to see in time how they'll overall focus outside of Rupture meta focused content, but I believe overall with how well they're performing within this Rupture space, they should be able to still perform pretty well outside of it too. But again, overall, that's everything about Lucia's teams. I think now it's time to talk about how I feel about this character overall and if you should or shouldn't pull for her. When it comes to pulling for Lucia, I think you should go for this character if you think that you're going to grab any form of Rupture unit at all. This is because again, she is a significant contributor to the Rupture class, like how Yuzaha is for Anomaly. This means that she will provide drastic increases and better performances for any Rupture unit that is on her team, making her the best slot option for every, and I mean every Rupture unit that we currently have right now. Yizhuan sees major increases in all her performances to the point that she is bringing her back up to potentially Miyabi level. Minato also is a night and day performance with him having Lucia and hasn't. I know that kind of hurts some people, but that is the truth about it. That's how strong her buffs overall are. And then Yidhari don't have any information on her, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lucia is a really strong support that is paired with her, especially since both of them run the Ether Veil concept and making them a great team to synergize with one another. And like I mentioned in my previous video with Minato, since Minato is the HP character that's focused on draining his HP, and Yidhari is the same thing, this make pairing them with Lucia a great option here as well. This is just the Rupture support, and I think it's just a very no-brainer idea to pull for this character if you want to focus on the Rupture. But this doesn't mean that you have to pull her right now if you don't have the overall polychromes or funds. If you're someone that can only focus on getting a few copies of Minato and maybe you luckily get Lucia, sure, go ahead and do that. Or if you want to focus on getting Yidhari first, since you have currently limited pools right now, I think though that is a fine option. But I do think at some point whenever she reruns back around, which I wouldn't be surprised if she reruns pretty often, just be sure that you end up grabbing her at some point, because again, you're going to be seeing a very clear stark difference in having Lucia on your team and not having it when running a unit a part of the Rupture class. But overall, I think that's everything that you need to know about Lucia. She's a very strong support that I think a lot of you guys will end up enjoying, because overall she is a lot more active as a support unit. This is something that a lot of people praise Yuzaha about when she got introduced, even though she's also able to provide off-field performance as well. And it feels like Lucia is in that same boat, which I love this design idea a lot, because I don't know about you guys, I don't like the fact that I can't control my character sometimes. I don't know, it's just really fun to run Lucia, and I think she's one of the better supports that we're getting, not only kit wise but gameplay wise. So I think if you're anybody that's interested in this character, I believe you'll have a ball. You'll get a lot of bang for your buck when pulling her with your polychromes. But anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully this was very helpful when you understand everything that you need to know about Lucia. I appreciate all you guys and your love and support. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.